everyone, it's Shriner from Pay or Wait, and today I'm going to be reviewing Black Lightning Season 2, Episode 4, The Book of Consequences, Chapter 4, Translucent Freak. Okay, so we see the beginning of the episode opens up with Jennifer. It seems like she's going to like prom or a home. No, it's probably like a homecoming dance or something. And so we see that Issa's waiting at the bottom of the steps. And, you know, all is well. Everyone taking pictures. They're like, you look so cute, girl. She's like, thank you, girl. And so then all of a sudden we get like a Debo knock at the door. And then all of a sudden it's Khalil. And I was like, so you just going to pop up at their house like this? Like, you going through the front door now? You're not going through the window? So when we see he comes in, like, really? This dude? And then he basically shoots everybody and they pass out. And then basically they start fighting. Then when she took her shoes off, she took her heels off. You knew she was going to get down to business, y'all. So she goes ahead. They start fighting. They fighting up and down the steps and stuff. And then long story short, we see that she is actually in therapy. So this is actually her and cousin Maxine's. I know that's not her name, but she's the doctor, but still. Basically, she's trying to help her deal with her powers. And so she tells her to concentrate and focus that power to stop herself from having this big breakdown. And then she starts thinking about Khalil being shy, you know, when they were together. She starts calming down. But then that's when she sees him be shy and like kind of what's led him to be because of that. And then she just loses focus and she can't control her powers back inside of the box. So we see that Tobias is in custody. So we saw that Tobias was arrested at the end of last week's episode by Henderson. And so basically Henderson talks to him. Tobias like, y'all done had me in custody for a couple of days now, and I ain't told y'all nothing. Like, what else do you need? And so he was like, hey, how are you not aging? He was like, what can I say? It's vegan, being vegan and yoga. He's like, y'all need to get off that Kool-Aid and fried chicken diet. It's like, Tobias get on my damn nerves. This is what he be saying. He just don't like black people. So he brings up his friend Marcellus, how it's odd that Marcellus is dead, who was in connection with you killing Alvin Pierce, because that's what he's being in jail for. And then basically they also say, like, and it's funny, this dead cop who had access to evidence that led the DNA samples that led them to know that Tobias was the one who had something to do with Alvin's murder. Mysteriously, that disappears. Then the cop gets killed who had access to that. So now we see why Tobias killed that cop, how he was covering up loose ends. And so basically they tell him, hey, he might have done it, but you have no evidence. So you have 48 hours to figure out some type of evidence that's going to hold him in jail or he's going to walk free. So basically, so Gamby tells Jefferson about Anissa stealing the money, like what she been doing, how she been like just basically thieving for the church. And so he gets upset and he's like, why didn't you tell me? He was like, well, I did tell you. And he was like, well, you should have told me before you even went to help her. And he was like, look, I want her trust as well. Like, it's not just about you. It's about establishing some type of connection with Anissa. And so he gets upset and then he goes and yells at Anissa. Anissa get mad. He like, well, if you in my house. And then she was like, oh, well, then I ain't got to be in your house. And so she said, I'm moving out. And so then Jennifer's upset because she's moving out. And then while they're talking, Anissa sees a text from Khalil come through. And she's like, why are you talking to him? You shouldn't be talking to him after he tried to kill Dad. She's like, he tried to kill Black Lightning. She's like, why are you taking up for him? Like, this isn't you. You need to just leave it alone. You can't be with him because he's not the same person that you used to rock with. So basically, Lynn and Jefferson become concerned about Anissa because they feel as though, well, maybe we've been paying too much attention to Jennifer, because Anissa did just discover her powers not so long before Jennifer discovered hers. And so they're just like, maybe we didn't give her enough attention. Well, maybe we need to figure something out and help her deal with things, because Jefferson basically thinks that she's being reckless with what she's choosing to do with her powers. And Lynn had to remind them, like, you weren't so innocent yourself, sir, when you had your powers when you first started. So you need to keep that in mind as well, which is interesting because we see later towards the episode that Jennifer is ignoring Jefferson because Anissa's moving out. He was like, well, you kicked my sister out. And then he was just like, I did not kick your sister out. And then she was like, oh, but you know what? You're so perfect. You never made mistakes. It's just us who does it. So it's interesting how, you know, as a parent, he's trying to basically help prevent his kids from making the same mistakes that he did when he discovered his powers. But it's kind of like, you kind of got to let them go through their self-discovery just as you did so when you first knew that you were a meta. So long story short, In the midst of all of that, Jefferson wants to apologize to Lynn because he feels like he's put her in this predicament where now she has to do all of these things. The fact that she had to pull a trigger when they were in the cabin in last season. He just apologizes to her for like putting all of this burden upon her as well. And so we see that Henderson and Jefferson are trying to work together. He calls them down to the station like, hey, we have to figure this out. This is where we're at right now. It's not looking too good. And Jefferson's like, okay, well, basically, let me just be a witness. He was like, how you gonna be a witness to your father's murder that you weren't there for? He was like, actually, I was there. He was like, oh, so any other lies that you want to tell me? And then he was like, look, we gotta squash this beef. And he was like, man, like, you just don't get it. Like, we ain't nowhere near squashing no beef. You just, actually, I think he said, you don't get it, bruh. When they call you bruh, like, you already know, like, bruh, you ain't getting it. I'm being serious right now. So basically, we see that Kara is actually alive. I was wondering, I was like, yeah, y'all gonna show Kara this episode? But then we see her. We see that Kara's alive, but barely, okay? And then I was wondering, like, why the hell he got her in these rooms with all these guns? Like, she wasn't just some assassin. And I was just really confused by that. And so we see that he's trying to tell her, like, hey, you have sepsis. You ain't gonna make it, girl. Like, you need to atone for your sins right now. And so tell me everything that you know so we can try to put a stop to Tobias so we can find what's in the case. She's like, I ain't telling you nothing, okay? I don't trust you. I'm not telling you anything. And so he leaves, and we see later towards the episode that we find her lying on the ground. And, of course, she pull a gun out because I'm like, once again, you left an assassin in a room full of guns. It don't matter if she got, like, no wound or not, okay? Like, be smart, okay? But he gets the gun out of her hand. Basically, she's like, I'm gonna die. He was like, yeah, been telling you that the whole episode. And then, so basically at the end, she ends up passing away as he's asking her questions. I'm sorry if I keep doing my eye like this. I have a sty on my eye, so, like, my eye is really painful right now. So, he basically asks her, like, what's in the briefcase? It's Tobias. Another one in the briefcase that he not used was in the briefcase. And then she, like, passes away, but she hands him her phone before she dies. And so basically she really dead now, y'all. She like dead. And she said, make sure that you cremate me. Don't burn me. I just want to be cremated. So that's it for her. So Jefferson at the school. So as we know, Jefferson stepped down as principal and Mr. Lowry is in place, who is a white man. And so basically he there's a fight that breaks out, and we see Jefferson, he's sitting in his classroom kind of reflecting, and we see some words that are written behind him, which is actually from a poem called Let America Be America Again by Langston Hughes, which I thought was really exceptional that they had those words sitting behind him. And as he walks out, because he hears a fight breaking loose, and so he breaks it up, he makes the two gentlemen apologize to one another, and then Mr. Lowry comes in and basically says, who threw the first punch? And he was like, well, he did. He's like, okay, well, you're expelled and you're suspended. He was like, you can't do that. Like, where do you, like, give these kids a chance? Like, we settled it. He was like, look, sir, there's a zero tolerance policy. We're not having that no more. They might have been doing that when you was principal, but we're not doing it. And if you don't like it, you can get a stepping too. He didn't say get a stepping, but that's what he should have said. But so Jefferson get pissed off, runs into his office like, hey, I don't know what you know, but you know that I'm here by the board to make sure that you have legitimacy here. And he was like, look, on my watch, not on my watch, we're not going to have no fighting. We're not going to have people on green light. We're not going to have none of this nonsense. And there's no second chances. And I thought it was interesting how Jefferson tried to tell him, like, when you guys do that, when you basically deny the kids redemption, deny them second chances to turn their life around, you're basically putting these angry children on the street who feel like they have nothing else to do but to do bad, okay? And so I thought it was interesting that he's telling them that, and he was just like, I don't care. Zero tolerance. It does not matter. And so I don't know what's going to happen with that. We see that Jefferson and Lynn, like, he's telling her what happened at work. And she's like, I know that you can put your mind to anything, like whatever's possible. But Lynn's having a bad time at work as well with that crazy doctor, because basically she just sitting up here watching this kid in the pod wake up and die. And she was just like, oh, well, he's dead now, so we have research. And she was just like, girl, what are you talking about? Like, these are people. They're not subjects. They are human beings. And then she finds Jefferson samples and her daughter's samples. And she's like, hey, like, did you know that this, like, meta, like, their stuff stabilized? And then this person has two relatives who have the same but inherited meta powers. And so now Lynn should, because she just like, oh my gosh, this lady is crazy. She doesn't care about these people at all. She just wants them to die. And now that she like, well, if the ASA can get their hands on these people, then we can have all the research that we need, because we can basically just poke and prod and test on them until they die. And so now she fears for her family. And she's fearing that she's put herself into a bad situation as well. So things aren't looking too good for her. In the meantime, during this beef between Anissa and between Jefferson, Anissa goes to Gamby and asks Gamby, hey, can I please stay with you? He's like, okay, but I'm going to tell your father what is going on. And so there's trouble for Anissa, but because since she's been stealing, we saw that she stole from the dudes in the ponytail the last episode. So we see that one of the guys goes to Tobias while he's in jail. And he was like, hey, you know, I can make a couple of phone calls and get you out of here by the end of the day. He's like, look, that's the problem. You white people always want to come and be our saviors, okay? So he's like, I don't need your help. What do you want? And so basically he asked for permission to handle the person to basically kill the person who's been stealing money from them and giving it to the clinic. And so he says, permission granted, but I need you to put facial recognition outside of the clinic so we can try to figure out who Black Lightning is, and so we can stop him once and for all, okay? And so we see that they go, Jefferson and Anissa goes to talk to Gamby after they make up. They kind of they apologized, but didn't apologize. It was just weird, but it was cute because they made up, so all is well in the world. And he's going to let Anissa stay in his father's house so she can kind of have her space and do what she has to do. So we see that they come up with a plan, and then they go to stake out the clinic because they know there's going to be some type of attack because someone offered 50 grand on the black market. And so basically we see this pregnant girl walk in, and then she come out, she ain't pregnant no more. I said, girl, that was a fast delivery if I ain't never seen one. And so basically they go in, Jefferson and Anissa, and they find 2 bombs. They defuse the bombs. Everything is all and well in the world, okay? But in the meantime, Gamby was over here trying to fight the girl that was pregnant. Now she's not pregnant no more. He got his ass beat. Then the girl got away. He's sitting over here trying to run after her. I was like, Gamby, just give it up, boo. You need to train somebody to be like you. Too old to be doing all of this, Gamby. Just take a chill pill. Just rest, okay? And so we see that they resolve everything with that. We see that Tobias walks free. Jefferson looking mad. His eyes all doing a little electric thing, and then his little liquor in his glass boiling because he's so upset. And then we see that Lynn and Jefferson come to a decision about what to do with Jennifer. We see during the course of the episode, she's still having trouble trying to control her powers. We see that she's fried another computer. And so they decide, like, hey, things aren't safe at the school right now because he's not principled to take care of things. She can't control her powers right now. And so they decide to keep Jennifer at home, and they're going to homeschool her. And of course, this doesn't go over well for Jennifer, who later calls Khalil, who's been hitting her up like basically since the beginning of the time. And she meets up with him. He was like, I wasn't expecting you to call. And I was like, well, I was expecting her to call. But yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen, but Jennifer is just not having this. Tobias is free. We see he has a party with the 100, and he was like, I'm back. And I was like, ooh, I can't stand you. So I think that's pretty much all that happened. I don't know how I feel about this episode. I think things are kind of moving slow. Is it just me? Like, I just feel like it's moving slow. It is the 4th episode, but I just feel like more should be happening at this point. And I feel like the whole ploy of having Tobias in jail for this whole episode, I just didn't get the point. Like, I felt like there was going to be something he was trying to get or break into someone at the police station. I just don't know why all of a sudden, willy-nilly, he was okay with being at the jail. I don't know. That's just me. Let me know what you thought about it. Maybe you guys thought it was a great episode. I just was left wanting a little bit more. So those are my thoughts on Black Lightning Season 2, Episode 4, The Book of Consequences, Chapter 4, Translucent Freak, which is what Henderson called Tobias in the episode. So as always, my name is Sharonda from Pay Your Weights, and if you like what you saw today, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and make sure you hit that notification bell, and I will see you soon.